Good afternoon. Back here on this Wednesday afternoon. Keith Tebow from FRCMedia, thanking you again for joining us on this beautiful day for late May as we head closer to the summer months. You know, we've had a good working relationship throughout the COVID-19 pandemic and a good relationship and communication with our local legislative delegation. And we're going to talk to another one of those right now. I'm pleased to be joined by State Representative Carole Fiola. Representative, thank you. Welcome back. How are you?
I'm great, Keith. How are you?
I am doing well. When we talked last time, which was probably toward the beginning of the pandemic, you were talking about how your office was always, and you're still getting a lot of calls into the office of questions from constituents and government officials and those who you represent. You had talked about how, in the early going, a lot of the questions was about unemployment and those who had lost their jobs, hopefully temporarily. What types of calls are you getting now? Still those same types of calls? Are they different?
So, Keith, you're right. We did hundreds of calls, and I think the majority of people who needed to be on unemployment are pretty much there right now. The questions now are pretty much from employers. Very concerned. They need to get back running safely. They're ready to be safe, and they're asking. They want to be in this phase instead of phase 2, or phase 2 instead of phase 3, and rightfully so. I mean, we are on the border of Rhode Island, and so many of the businesses are seeing what Rhode Island's doing, and so we're ahead in some respects of Rhode Island and behind in others. So. We're getting a lot of business calls, but still a lot of calls from constituents. There's still some unemployment issues. And as a matter of fact, just today cropped up a new concern with unemployment. And as you would figure, criminal enterprises are at work. And there is a whole bunch of unemployment fraud going on. And so those people who are out there who believe they haven't received their unemployment yet because they think perhaps they've been compromised. There's a link and a phone number. Glad to share the phone number with you right now, but very important that they call this number because the Division of Unemployment Assistance is working to curb that. But as you know, when there's big dollars involved and there's lots of money involved, the crooks find a way to sadly penetrate that.
Yeah, I know. I had heard about that story. Actually, my wife's business, she works in a small company in Rhode Island, and she got an email. She's in charge of the finances. She got an email saying that such and such in her business had filed for unemployment and has, been approved to receive benefits while that person was still working for them. So again, there's a lot of people who like to take advantage, and that's unfortunate. But one of the things that I know that is equally as impressive, Representative, is the fact that, in general, the people of Fall River, I'm sure the people in your entire district are more understanding of the situation. They may not like it, they may get frustrated, but they've been very cooperative in making sure they're, adhering to social distancing guidelines, wearing masks and the like. And that's got to be heartening to you as well.
I think you're absolutely right. We have, I've been out, I go for walks. I'm here in my home office every day, limited, field trips, if you will, because, I'm trying to do the same thing as everyone else. But wherever I've gone, if it's been the market or CVS or on the streets, people are really adhering. The high majority of people are adhering. They're not aggravated. They understand. This is not only an economic issue right now, but a public health emergency. And they're trying to do their part because, as we talked about, Keith, the only thing we can do is our behaviors, and that's the washing of the hands, social distancing. When you can't, you wear a mask. If you're in certain businesses, you must wear one, or you won't, you'll be asked not to come in. And I think, those are reasonable requests at this point because we don't want to see it spike back up. Our numbers are looking pretty good. Now, sadly, we've had 26 deaths in the city of Fall River. One death is too many related to this virus, but we are looking pretty good versus some other cities of a little comparable size who have hundreds of deaths. So I want to salute everyone who's been doing their job, from the workers and the employees of the nursing homes, because that's a big area of concern, to the hospitals, to the grocery stores, and of course our emergency responders and everyone. So we're doing better than many communities, and it is heartening to see people being patient and understanding at this time.
I know last night you took part in the town hall that was sponsored by Mayor Paul Coogan, you and the entire legislative delegation. I had the opportunity to watch that. It was a fantastic event. It was good to have all of you in one room, talk about how you've worked together throughout this entire process, as well as answering some difficult questions. And I know that one of the things I want to bring up with you is the fact that there are a number of issues that would normally be taking front and center in terms of domestic abuse, children getting help with their education that may not be getting the appropriate help through the remote learning, those in our nursing homes that, and I think you were one that mentioned last night that, a lot of the crime statistics may be down. A lot of it is because there's no reporting mechanism for some of these instances. And, there's still a need for those who are, are addicted to drugs and alcoholism to still seek that help. And those are sort of the hidden factors that we're seeing throughout this play out. Talk a little bit about that, if you could.
Yeah, Keith, sadly, and reality is that while the pandemic, as you said, has taken front and center, issues of society are going on. In some ways, we're hearing that that these things are escalating, but not being reported. Alcoholism, drug addiction, mental health, child abuse, domestic violence. These are things we don't want to have to think about, but they're real. In a large community like Fall River, in a struggling at times socioeconomic community, we see this a lot in every facet of the community. But it's very worrisome to the state, to us in the legislature, that that people aren't feeling as comfortable to report domestic violence and other issues. Although the courts are open for these things, if there's an issue, call the police will get an emergency order. These things, Section 35s, when it comes to substance abuse, when it comes to mental health, when it comes to 51As for domestic violence, they are still being filed in the courts. Someone could walk into the lobby during business hours of the court and have the appropriate paperwork. They could use any language. There's abilities for translators there. So we hope people are taking advantage of that. STAR in our community has the domestic contract for the domestic violence work in our community, and they're a great resource. So it is scary. Child abuse, mandated reporters. Every day our children are sitting in the seats in front of educators. That's not happening right now. And it's hard to see it over the computer that there's a problem. And in many cases, these kids aren't in front of the computer with the educators. So it is worrisome. And, we're going to be tackling some of the aftermath. Not only Fall River, but all communities will be dealing with this. On the drug addiction side, the services are out there, but it's, think about it. You're struggling in recovery and you go to meetings every day. Those group meetings are not happening. They're happening on Zoom. They're happening on your cell phone. They're happening, and Zoom and cell phone meetings and webinars are dependent on your technology. And one of the needs is for technology for people who are really struggling and want to have access to those meetings. So we're hoping that will open up soon. Somebody suggested, well, do those meetings outside. I even thought of that. But guess what? Confidentiality, privacy, you don't want to be sitting in a group meeting in the park and everybody go, oh yeah, those are all the people in recovery. And, it's a private thing for many. And, these are the things we're going to be dealing with. And, we're going to be addressing more and more. And we look to our experts in the community who are on the front line to share with us what they need, what resources and tools that they think we need to help them get the job done.
When we spoke back in early April, a month and a half ago, we had talked about how, the House of Representatives was not in session formally, still not. It's still mainly informal sessions that are taking place. What has changed in terms of your workflow now? Are there more remote meetings? Is it getting back to some sort of normalcy remotely for you and the rest of the house?
Well, certainly, yes, because when we spoke at the very beginning of the pandemic, and we were trying to figure out how we could resume not only the emergency work that needed to be done with the COVID-19, but how to get back to other bills and other issues. We passed legislation to be able to do have remote formal sessions. We've been having them. We've passed a number of bills related to the COVID virus and helping municipalities. And, we've been doing that. We're going to continue to do that right now in the short term because, there's 160 of us. We sit close together. There's a lot of talking. So we're doing that all on our Zoom meetings. We have briefings. We have, conference calls every day. And so that's what we're doing in the meantime. And we just passed an infrastructure bill that is really not just COVID related, but one that had been sitting and wanting to have our attention. And we took care of it to provide for parts of the Commonwealth that need cybersecurity infrastructure, IT requirements throughout the Commonwealth for schools and hospitals and others. I was even able to get an amendment in there for our city of Fall River to be able to, hopefully when all the dust clears and the governor, and we're all on to more normal business, access. I put in $500,000 to be able to access for some, IT cybersecurity upgrades at government center in the city. Hopefully we'll be able to access that in the future. But so we are working, and we are, again, our constituents can reach us, and boy, do they. Email, text, phone calls, Facebook messages. They're all over the place. The best way, though, is to call our local district office or email us, and we are back in touch with them the very same day, no later than 24 hours.
I know one of the, and I've talked to each of you on this next issue is, looking at the state's finances and how that obviously translates to city finances trickling down. I know there's still a lot of questions that need to be answered in terms of whether there'll be any other federal assistance that may come forward to help the states. We know that the House in Washington is talking about that, not necessarily the Senate, but the House in Washington is talking about that. How difficult is it to legislate with so many unknowns out there in terms of not only the budget, but, it looks like, in speaking with Senator Rodrick a couple of weeks ago, a lot of the bills that are before both chambers of the legislature probably won't get voted upon just because of the time frame that you have. I believe the end of July is when the session ends. So I guess how difficult is to work with so many unknowns?
Well, it's as difficult for us, but it's also the same for every single resident of the Commonwealth and the country right now. We were looking at record low unemployment here in Fall River, as well as the Commonwealth. We were looking at revenues that were sufficient. We were looking at the exciting Student Opportunity Act funding to be able to add. Last year, we added, in the beginning steps, over $11 million to the Fall River School Department. We were adding at least another $11 million this year. Those things are very likely out the door right now. And the thing is, it's not like we saw this coming where we could slowly plan. This was an excellent economy, and in a day or two or a week, just shattered. So I think everyone understands this, this reality, but it doesn't mean it won't be a little painful. And, we're going to weed through all of this. Our revenues for the end of FY20 coming up at the end of June, we're going to be okay. We're not going to look at 9C cuts, it appears, because we only have a few months left. But when we get into fiscal year 21, which by now the House has done their budget, by now the Senate has done their budget in historic patterns, and then we're over to the governor and conference committee. we're behind because we don't know our numbers. The revenues, we have, meals tax and other things throughout the Commonwealth. We have sales tax down. We have our income tax we put off. That was one of the bills. We allowed people who had to pay their income tax through July 15th. So we'll see a better picture come June, July. But you said it. The big thing is going to be, what will the federal government give our municipalities? That's what we need. And we need it not to be with too many strings attached, because with the loss of revenue, they're talking about using this money directly for COVID expenses. But, we really need it to make ourselves more whole here in the municipality. And I know Mayor Coogan and all of us have been talking to the federal delegation and hoping that they will push that, because I'm sure all communities throughout the country are saying the same thing. It's great that you gave me $7.9 million, but I need it to do other things, not just COVID-related expenses. Yeah. So we'll get through. It's very unsettling. It will be, it's not like we've been sitting behind the scenes going, we're cutting this and this and this. We just don't know yet. So we're going to be ready. If we have to go beyond July 30th, we will vote to do so. We'll have possibly some formal sessions moving forward. We need to take care of business, but we need to know what it is we have to work with. And that's what we're a little bit waiting on.
Yeah. Representative Carole Fiola, as always, I appreciate your time. Thank you. All the best, and we'll talk again soon.
Thank you, Keith. I just want to make sure people know our local district number, if that's okay.
Please. Please.
The local number is 774-322-1313, and either Tyler or Sophia will likely answer, and they're fabulous, and I couldn't do it without them. So thank you all, and again, to everyone out there, hang in. We're going to get there. And thank you all, essential workers.
All right, Representative Fiola, thank you very much. We'll talk again soon. And we'll also talk again soon to you, as we will continue these updates on Facebook as well as on Channel 95. So for all of us here at FRC Media, thanks for joining us and have a great day.